Hello, my name is Dr. Isaac Munawar. Today we want to continue our presentations on setting goals to rise to the top, particularly why managers and business organizations or business owners need financial education. We don't all have to be accountants. We don't all have to be economists. We don't all have to be financial experts. We don't all have to be auditors. But it's important that as leaders or future leaders, we understand why we need to understand or have some level of financial education. As small business owners or large business owners or chief executives, you will simply need some financial education just so that you can supervise properly and meaningfully. There are a number of reasons why that is important. The number one reason why every manager or business owner needs financial education is to understand general record keeping, why they are important. And in general record keeping is financial record keeping. There are regulatory reasons why that is important. There are mandatory reasons why that is important. And there are even reasons that are beneficial to the organization itself. As we move on, we'll continue to discuss why that is so. For instance, if you keep records properly, whether financial or administrative, when there is need for you to refer to an issue, it becomes a witness, it becomes a standing in point for you. And so just for the fact that you can retrieve information means that you should have kept it, because if you were just doing anything and throwing them off, then if you want it in future, how will you get it? So that's one reason why record keeping in general, and for that matter financial record keeping, is critical. Keeping financial records will also protect the mission and for that matter the vision of the organization. Very, very important. The number two reason why every business owner or manager for that matter need to have some financial education, regardless whether you are a financial or management expert, is that you need to know how to keep your records. Necessary to know the financial records to keep, even if one is not an expert, is in the fact that you need to identify, and at least when you see the type of records that your experts or technical people are keeping, you yourself should be able to at least identify them and be able to work with them, superficially. Because if you don't understand what a cash book is, you don't know what a cash book is, how are you going to, even if you get an accountant or a financial expert to manage your finances for you, what business and how are you going to supervise, how are you going to monitor, if you don't know the value or the place of receipt books? Then it means you'll be doing your transactions and the payments will just be done haphazardly. And how are you going to, in future, collect data on your payments if you don't know the value of your cash analysis book, in which all payments and receipts are recorded? How are you going to supervise someone doing it? If you don't know that you need to have an owner certificate, where some purchases under regulations that may not have receipts, official receipts, such activities or payments are recorded in owner certificates under strict approval, because the system or whatever system you are operating in, that will determine what you can use owner certificate to do and what you cannot. Again, you need that education, because if you don't know, even as a supervisor, how are you going to ensure that the right thing is done? Then you need to have or know what an inventory book is, so that you can, even if it's a storekeeper or somebody in charge of logistics and supply, you should know what the person is using an inventory book for, what is using your telecards book for, or telecards, what is he using them for. You need to be able to go through a bank statement of all your deposits and then payments into the accounts or bank accounts. If that simple activity you cannot identify, you don't know anything about, how are you going to ensure that your business grows? And how are you going to, in future, deal with other financial institutions or be trustworthy for even others to come in partnership with you? So you need to know what a bank statement is and how it looks like and how you deal with it. You need to understand what an asset register is for. In educational institutions, for instance, you need to have all your movable and immovable assets recorded, and with various identification numbers, so that you can always understand what comes in and what goes out. In case you need your board of survey to take a few things out, then it will also mean that you have to strike them out by some means from the asset register. Number 3 reason why every manager or business owner needs to have some financial education is in the fact that you need to be able to organize the data. How data is organized in an organization, you need to have basic understanding. It is a general social science principle that data should be able to, you should be able to observe, collect and collate data and organize it, so that you can do some analysis with the data to see how you are doing. How do you say how you are doing? You're able to discover certain patterns. In number 4 reason why you need to have financial education, because what we are saying is that it doesn't matter whether you yourself will know how to do it. It doesn't also matter whether you are employing someone to do it. The basic thing is that you should have fundamental understanding of how to keep the records, how to organize them, how to analyze them, and then how to see what patterns you are getting. This business I'm doing, am I growing? Am I stagnating? Am I in retrogression? You should be able to, without any critical signs, be able to observe these things or do critical analysis to determine whether the patterns you are getting, you are growing, you are stagnating, or you are declining. You will discover meaningful patterns, and then you can generalize and see that when I'm into this kind of activity, whether as educational institution, social institution, or even your own business, you should be able to now see that doing an issue or carrying out an activity, going into this particular transaction with these patterns at this point in time, this is what I'm likely to get, and based on which you then predict to see whether to cut off unwanted areas. It will also help you to speculate, because once you are able to predict, you can see that around this time in the year, around this time in the season, around this time in the business system, this is what you are expecting. You then either cut out what is not needed and make necessary adjustments. And you cannot, nobody can pretend that knowing these things are reserved for financial experts alone. It's important that we all take these things serious, and I think that people must make themselves available. If you think that this presentation is any meaningful, if just for the purpose of helping humanity, you need to strike the subscribe button and share it for others. I mean, it doesn't take you anything, but it will help you to look at the various points and see how yourself can expand on them and take advantage and ensure that you don't sit aloof and run into problems. Remember that as we run into democratic dispensations, you cannot claim ignorance and get away with it. And so whether as to whether you are managing your own business or you are a manager in a public organization, you need to have this elementary understanding. Okay.